All right, we should be live on YouTube. So welcome everyone. This is the Node.js release working group meeting. Today is the 24th of July, 2025. And we have an agenda today, but before we get to that, do anyone has any announcements? Anything they like to mention before we get started with the agenda here?
I have added one announcement, but that's just VAI. We are going to discuss it anyway, but some Node.js release will be slightly delayed due to the OS X cluster upgrade.
Sure. Is it all the release lines or just a specific one?
I think we
We need to
don't
check.
have a working macOS CI. I saw some test builds this morning, but I don't know what the state is. So I know Ryan was getting together with the Mac Stadium people to try and get the images redeployed. um, and I guess we have images now. I just don't know if they're in a fit state to be building Node. So the test builds this morning both failed, but it wasn't clear to me if those were just test failures because the build is broken, or if there is like tooling stuff that hasn't been deployed properly. I don't know. I'm not that
Yeah,
familiar
well,
with Macs. So.
cool. Cool. Yeah, I think we'll go back to that on the in the downtime topic. But yes, let's start here with the first item on the agenda here. The we have update instruction on how to verify releases. Antoine, can you maybe talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so I recently lost access to the release key I was using, and it caused some issues on the ecosystem because our recommended way to get releases keys is to use openpgp.org. The problem seems to be that openpgp will only allow one key per email address. So anyway, the discussion in the issue, we seem to be in agreement that it would be better to recommend folks to use our keyring that we support. We maintain on a GitHub repo. I've added a bunch of automation to make sure we can guarantee what's in the keyring. And so the PR, I think, is as consensus to land, so I'm just adding it to the agenda. So, well, yeah, if there are any objections, it's now is the time to speak. Otherwise, I'll merge it.
And just for some background, originally, or I say originally, when I first got involved with release, we were actually using a pooled key server, which I think was called SKS key servers. And then somebody else from sort of raised an issue saying, well, that pool of key servers had been compromised. And then we sort of, the instructions we had was pointed to the pool, and then those were updated to point to the OpenPGP key server. It's basically, there wasn't a single key server that was a direct replacement for the pool of key servers. And then there's I think there's about 3 key servers that are sort of mentioned at various points in some of the release discussions. OpenPGP is the one that ended up being in the README, but I think there's like Ubuntu has a key server, and I think MIT might have one as well that at various times have been in instructions. But the person that sort of reported the issue with the SKS key servers sort of recommended that maybe we should maintain our own keys in a GitHub repo, and that's what that release keys repo was. And it's just, you know, like a lot of things, we had an intention to migrate things to that, but you know, it wasn't high on anyone's list of agendas. And I guess this particular recent thing, you know, issue with verifying the releases with the older key, it has kind of forced a hand a bit to actually then put in the effort to you know, tidy up the keys repository and actually put the instructions into the main node README. So I think, you know, it was the intent to switch to this release keys repo, and the recent events is just kind of, you know, focused focused our attention to make that happen. And yeah, thanks Antoine for adding the additional automations and stuff to validate the things.
Awesome.
I think it's also worth it to add the notable change label in that request, so we make sure to mention that on every Node.js release, that we are changing the way we recommend and to check how signed releases work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Do you want to do that, Rafael?
Just did.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
I wonder if we should have some kind of process in case a key gets leaked.
I can't remember if we wrote anything down. So it's happened. Oh, sorry, no, it has happened. We have had a key that we took out. No, how would I explain it? We had a key that was on a laptop that was stolen.
Yeah.
So we said that we'd no longer sign. Well, it was not possible to sign things with that key, or we sort of said we would no longer sign releases with that key. But I can't remember if we updated the governance or the operating sort of manual as to what exactly happens when a key can no longer be used to sign releases. Because on the one hand, it has the key would have been used to sign a previous release. So on the one hand, you want to be able to verify
I have the thread here.
But, yeah.
I found the thread where this happened. I will send in the chat.
But yeah, if we didn't update any sort of instructions or guidance, then that sounds like a sensible thing to do. If there's an obvious thing we should be doing.
Maybe one thing would be to we could have each other revocation certificates or something like that. I lost the key and I lost all the. I lost it. I cannot even make a revocation certificate. Maybe that would be useful.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it happened, the only thing we did is we have removed the SSH key from the disk server, and
But the SSH key is different from the
yeah,
PGP signing key.
yeah, and we have removed it from Node.js node and Node.js release keys repository, but that's it. I think we didn't remove from any Azure tree in the end.
So I imagine now that we have a all key keyring and a active keys keyring, that what we want to do is at least remove a key that someone's lost access to from the active key keyring. And I guess the question is then, should it still be in the all key keyring? I mean, one of the arguments for keeping it there is so that you can verify old releases. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the best.
We need even have an automation now that checks if we can verify all the releases. So
so probably have to stay in the all keys.
I guess the active key thingy, probably we should guarantee that it's able to verify the non-end of life releases. So if one of those leak, does that mean we should make a new release? That makes sense. Can we guarantee that? Or could we maybe change the signature of an existing release?
I don't think we can.
Yeah, I also have the impression it doesn't work that way once it's signed.
we don't really have the ability. We don't have a mechanism of issuing a new signing. So we sign the SHA sums, and in theory, you could regenerate the signature on the SHA sum, but we've kind of treated those as immutable in that once they're done, we don't go back and change them.
And yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think one of the tricky things with the keys is they're really points in time. They're snapshots of points in time, but most people don't treat the verification as if you were at that point in time. So, yeah, at the point we sign the release, the signature on the SHA sums is valid at that moment in time. So anything that happens to that key after that moment in time is, you can't go back and say, well, now that the key was compromised, a month later, it invalidates the signature on the earlier release. What it does do is it invalidates new signatures because, in theory, we tried to set some things up so that, in theory, the signed artifacts on the node infrastructure shouldn't be able to be replaced. I mean, it's always possible if you get enough access, but you need to have you need to have quite a high level of access that I don't even the release. No, I don't think the releases would have access to that. Because of the way things are moved around in promotion. So while you as a releaser could alter things on the staging directory, you can't change things that have been promoted to the release, the actual release, the live stuff. So once the stuff is live, it's very difficult to go and update that to something else. So yeah, I think in that respect, if the key is lost or compromised or can't be used, I think we only need to treat that for future releases. One of the advantages of the release keys repo is maybe that now we have things in there. If we can keep that current, we basically have like history. We have commit history in the release keys repo, so we can point people at specific versions of the keyring.
That was a suggestions in a comment. I think it was on my PR or another issue to add the commit SHA to the index.json. But yeah, I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my
realistic.
head. It would involve something of the order of operations. But it's an idea that might be worth looking at.
Yeah, just a quick time check here. I think we should probably move on to the next topic. Otherwise, we won't go through the agenda. But
Okay,
Antoine, do you feel like you
Yeah,
need some
yeah.
more
Well,
follow-up?
the open questions do not block the PR from merging. It's more.
Great. Yeah, maybe we should document them. Yeah, if they're not
later.
captured in the current issues, or just open new ones. But yeah, I think, for now, let's move on to the next topic here, which is the schedule downtown. Yes, Richard, I know in the beginning you were noting, maybe you want to
I
extend a
don't
little
know
bit
much
more.
about this. So what I do know is that we have an open issue, I think, in the build repo, or it might be in the main node repo, about upgrading the compilers and macOS for future V8 upgrades. And in order to do that, we've been told that the Orca, so Orca is the platform that Mac Stadium has that we're using to provision macOS VMs for both the test CI and the release CI. So both the testing machines and the release machines are through this Orca product from Mac Stadium. We were told that in order to upgrade things, we needed to upgrade our version of Orca, or were recommended that we upgrade our version of Orca. So this issue was originally about scheduling the upgrade. It was going to happen a couple of weeks ago, but then it's sort of coincided with the security releases that went out recently. So Ryan postponed the Orca upgrade until after the releases went out. The upgrade happened, but then the VMs that we had failed to redeploy. So for the moment, the Mac OS stuff has been disabled in Jenkins, which means that when you run Jenkins, Mac OS stuff gets skipped over. But it means for releases, we don't actually have a Mac OS release machines, so we can't actually generate binaries or sign them. And Mac OS is tier 1, so it blocks releases. I do know that supposedly earlier this week, Ryan was getting together with people at Mac Stadium to try and work through whatever problems there were in deploying the existing VMs. And as I said, I saw this morning there were a few test builds that failed, but I don't know the exact state of the org. So if someone is like planning to do a release, maybe reach out and talk to Ryan and see what the state of that work is.
Yeah. Anyone else has anything to add? I don't think there's much more to add on that one. So with that in mind, we have the release plans ahead of us, which seem to be a little bit blocked right now. Well, let's start with 24. When was the next plan? Rafael, you...
And the next one is Antoine,
Okay,
and
it's
then
Antoine
I
with
just added my name to the next.
Right, the first one in August. I see.
Yeah, possibly it will be delayed because of this delay.
Yeah. So Antoine, you kind of like prepared the release already? Where were you with that release?
I pushed some things to the staging branch, but I haven't run CI yet. It's yeah, there's no daily CI on V24 because it's not LTS. So
Right.
I guess I could open the proposal, but because I don't know the date, I just didn't.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to at least, kind of leave everything already in a more advanced state so that once the lights go green again, like it's just faster. But I mean, it's up to you to how to prioritize that too. But maybe, yeah, whatever makes
And
more sense.
what's gonna take the longest is to get CI to green, but if
Mhm.
I start the CI now, I'd have to start again
Yeah.
because of macOS. And it's the same status for V22. Thinking about this because there's a daily CI. At least I know that CI is failing on this one. Started working on bisecting this.
Right. So you were also working on that next 22 release.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. And on 20,
So I think 20 we should release it something around August by looking at the schedule. But yeah, I can volunteer to do it. I will be out of office for the first 2 weeks of August, and then we can release hopefully the macOS thing will be fixed by then.
Mhm. Cool. Okay. Yeah, with that, I think that leads us to the last item here, which is shifting the annual major releases, shorten the LTS duration. We had some discussion about that yesterday in the TSC meeting. So maybe Raphael, you want to start, give us some update?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but I believe everybody was there. We are all TSC members. So, but the TLDR is looks like no one is opposing to to have just one release per year. We are just in a phase that we need to provide more proposal, discuss that, see how it impacts the enterprise and community in general, and find a middle term. The only agreement we have so far is that at least one release per year it's okay. We are still discussing about increasing LTS or decreasing LTS time, reducing or increasing the maintenance window, and things like that. But we don't have like a proposal that has more agreement than that. James provided an idea during the TSM meeting yesterday that was having one release per year, and each every other release they will be LTS, pretty much what we do nowadays. But the difference that we issue two releases per year and just one goes LTS. The difference will be one release per year and just one each other year will be LTS. These reduce the maintenance of LTS of release lines when we are performing security release. For instance, the last security release, no, not the last, but the previous one, we had to do a security release for 4 active release lines. So it's usually a bit difficult because the patch should be compatible to each line. But yeah, we are in that phase, and I think it's time to just discuss idea, kind of brainstorming, and shape it up.
Yeah, you mentioned the James proposal, that what idea from yesterday. I know One-to-One did some work on trying to render that into a graph, which I really appreciate. That's something I understand so much better when we plot that graph there. But I think One-to-One, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like what Raphael just described here, I don't think that last render you put there is capturing it exactly, like, because you kind of have
Had
an
a different
LTS.
interpretation.
Yeah, right. You have like multiple majors still kind of like in a year, but it would all be current, right?
Just kept the same schedule except
Right.
one LTS, like one old one event release. No, we had one LTS release every 2 years instead of one, but and current every 6 months, like we do. If I try to find a way with one release per year, but I don't really know how that will work. Like, because there's been discussion that we don't really want to have 1 year without any breaking change.
Right. Yeah, there
making
was that
it.
aspect. Mhm.
Yeah, it's I feel that we will never find a solution, a silver bullet solution for that. I think it's more about trade-offs.
Yeah.
I still have a feeling that one release per year we reduce the maintenance or a bit of the burden from Node.js releasers, but it won't change too much, in my opinion. I feel that it's always fine to issue a release to a current release line, like, or to the latest one, because things never conflict. Um, the problem is when we are dealing with maintenance release lines. For instance, Node.js 20 now. It's very difficult to land security patches or to land to issue a release to those lines because most patches they conflict. So to include a security patch, you need also to upgrade on a specific version that requires other commits and go on. So this I don't have a solution for it yet, but yeah.
So
Right,
I
not
think
to-
one of the things that having one major release per year is that we don't have, like, we could always release beta releases for the package maintainers so they can preview like what's going on main branch, and we can avoid doing security releases for those. So there is never a situation where when we have to do security release or maintain too much the let's say the what previously was the odd version. So we replace the odd version with betas, but overall I think it wouldn't change much for the maintenance burden on the old releases. I think that will something that, like, regardless of our release schedule, if we support a version for 3 years, there is always going to be maintenance burden. So I think we should fix that problem by implementing other rules on backports or be more strict about what we put on maintenance releases.
Right, but one thing I'd like to note is that there seemed to be, from yesterday discussion, like there seemed to be a lot of pushback against the beta kind of idea, right? Pre-releases, like people, yeah, it seems like the model in which we have a current release line, right? Like it gives more confidence to people overall. And there was a lot of, I don't know, if we have data to back that, but at least I think a number of folks mentioned like some anecdotal kind of data, like from talking with the enterprises. And so I don't know. I think there's that pushback we have to keep in mind. Like that does seem to me like there's a lot of appetite for the pre-releases versus current. So trying to find a balance there, I think, would be the ideal. Richard,
I guess the thing though is, like, it's one thing to say we don't do security releases for let's call them current still, but the releases that don't become LTS. So whatever you call them, current beta or whatever, but we're still going to need to develop security patches to land on main because they will become the next future Semver major that will become an LTS eventually. So our current policy of landing changes in Node is changes go into main and then we work out whether they can be cherry picked to the older releases or specific fixes. In the case of security fixes, need to be specifically written for the older release lines. So even if we said, the whatever you call the latest release or the current release, even if we're saying we're not going to do a security release, right, we're still going to need to develop a fix that will land on main. And if we're saying that we don't get conflicts on the current because we're just cherry picking stuff from main, then I don't know that we're actually, I mean, okay, maybe you save the actual mechanics of having to test the release and doing the release, but you're still going to need to do the work in terms of developing the patches, and sort of merging everything up so that whatever main is and releases from main have the things in them from that point of view.
I think that to really define a good release schedule, we need to set or to write down some constraints, and then we elaborate proposals based on that. So by yesterday's meeting, I understood that the new release schedule must be predictable. So companies who plan that beforehand. So I believe that we should write down some bullet points that things that the new release schedule must do. It can be things that happens nowadays with the current schedule, so we don't change or we don't deviate too much. And then we can start listing the problems with the current release schedule and what we can do to solve them. Because I feel that I can imagine different situations, I can imagine different release schedule, but I see our team discussing or going back to the same problem. Okay, this is deviating from this policy that we must have, which is a predictable release cycle, or we must issue one major release per year because of the development, or like I think we could have this actionable at least from this meeting to have an issue or to write it somewhere to create some constraints, and then we elaborate a proposal.
Right, but do you think you can? Well, I mean, can you just continue to iterate on your own proposal? With
Yeah,
that
I
in
can.
mind?
I just I'm just a bit concerned about creating too much noise there, and people stop looking to the issue, what happens very often. But I think I can update the pull request description instead of commenting there. So I think that would be great if we can discuss a bit about some bullet points here, and then I can move there.
Sure, sure.
Maybe we could try to see if we're in agreement that would having alpha releases or whatever we call them less of a burden, same as a burden. I think that would be also useful to try to gauge if that's going in the right direction or not for us.
Mm-hmm. How exactly the alpha is planned? Because I understood that basically we were like cutting main every 3 months, and then we could ship more several major releases during the year. And then in the next version of Node.js, for instance, if we start doing that, then Node.js 25 will have several major releases of I don't know, 3 different lines or 3 different alpha versions. Am I right?
I don't know if we decided what would be the cadence of the sample
Okay.
release, but yeah, the idea is for during the alpha period, we cherry pick all the commits from main, including the sample major ones, and we run canary in the gold mine. We make a change log. We add the version in the readmes. So same as the current releases, but with sample major from time to time.
So wouldn't that happen? Like, for instance, if I deprecate something, it will be a major. And if I remove the feature, it also be a major. And if we do that in 2 alpha versions, it means that in the next LTS version, a feature will be from existing to non-existing without the deprecation cycle.
Yeah,
It would
I think
still not be possible to do that.
Yeah, you would put don't land on in 27 or whatever.
Okay. So it will need a bit of or work
It's
to
yeah.
identify
But
that.
that's one way to do it. I don't agree with Antoine what he suggested. Actually, I would not do a branch for the alpha. My idea was to do them directly from the main branch. To cut
But then yeah, but
alpha releases from the main branch.
you cannot then have security releases. But yeah, if we don't do them for alpha, that's fine.
You cannot have security releases.
Because the security
Why?
releases are prepared on a different repo, while main will keep advancing. So like the way it
The
works,
facts
you
still
build.
apply.
But we just said that we would not make security releases for the alpha.
But okay, I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
But how it's
I
gonna?
guess
I mean,
another
because a
another
security
thing
release must
is
land on main as well. So how it wouldn't land on beta? I don't
it's
understand this part.
because when you build a release, you give a commit SHA, and that's the commit SHA on the private repo. Then you try to push to the main repo, the public one, but it has commits that have landed in the meantime. So either you force push to main or you have a different branch. Like
Yeah, or we would have to
Create
lock the main branch while we prepare the security release.
But yeah, if we don't do security releases, it's fine. But then if we have a test failure or a canary in the gold mine and we want to exclude the commit, also we can no longer do that if we pick from main, which also might be fine, but worth having in mind.
But yeah, anyway, cherry picking to a branch is fine as well.
I think if we believe that alpha or alpha or beta version is valid to the release proposal, it really depends on the release proposal. I think no one objects on having this alpha beta version cut release. We just don't know exactly how it's going to work because we don't have a proposal on how it works. Rui?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I heard a lot of objections to the idea yesterday.
I wasn't there yesterday, so what were the arguments
Yeah, if I
against
remember,
it?
yeah, from the top of my head, it was most Philip and James, and the argument is that for both package authors and enterprise, but mostly package authors because
I
I think
think
that's the
we
public.
should not consider enterprise because they don't
Yeah,
use current anyway, so
yeah,
they
yeah,
surely
exactly.
won't use alpha. But
Yes,
for
Sure,
package
but
authors, yeah.
but the
still,
argument,
because LTS active releases would get commits from alpha maybe. Like if we don't have current, we need to get the commits from somewhere. Go ahead, Rui.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think where my mind was going is just that with that in mind, uh, the argument was that current seems to serve better that audience of package authors. Maybe so. I think I heard some argument for maybe enterprise testing, using current for testing for kind of like checking that. But I honestly can't remember.
I honestly don't think that's commonplace that enterprise touches current at all. They just
Right.
don't have the time to do it. So there may be, you might speak to some developers that have the desire, but I think what you generally find is that the teams are too pressured for time to have that luxury of just testing something out. It's like a lot of enterprises have processes around how they build things, which then have to be layered on top of, when we do a release, whatever that release is, like an LTS release, whatever release, the enterprises then who take that have to layer their own processes on top of that, and that adds to time for those users. So whatever we see as the life cycle, that's not the end all of the story for enterprise customers, which is why the desire to have a known plan schedule ahead of time that they can then build plans around, including things like when they will update to the next LTS or whatever version of Node that they plan to go to. And anecdotally, I know that there are several enterprise things that will skip LTS releases. So instead of going from 20 to 22, they'll go from 20 to 24. And again, they can only do that if there's sufficient overlaps to allow them to make that switch. But again, it's like, it's easy for us to say, oh, people can update it once a year. But what we hear back from enterprise clients is like, no, they can't. It's very difficult for them to do that. It's very tight as is with the 2-year cycle, and any sort of
Right.
asking them to do things at a more frequent cadence is just going to cause them problems. So that's the feedback I've heard, and it's consistent. It's not just like one or two teams. It's like almost every team I've talked to that uses Node in some way or have clients in some way. They have similar feedback, which is like, yeah, we just about manage on the current cadence, and any sort of proposals to shorten that is going to make their lives a lot harder.
Yeah.
And more than one of them have then sort of expressed a preference to go the other way. Obviously, going the other way of it, extending life support has issues for us maintaining that. So again, that's the balance we have between trying to satisfy.
But we should keep in mind that you and James are both in very big companies.
Yes.
And
I've been there too.
My company has clients in smaller ones, smaller enterprises where they don't have any specific process around Node.js, and we can basically do what we want with our software and update Node when we want. We still only keep it on LTS, but yeah, there are a lot of companies where it's easy to update Node if you want to.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Even a small company, like if you're running a system in production, you're not touching current or anything. You're sticking to LTS. But I just wanted to go back to my point. I think I did a very poor job on communicating. I think the one thing I had in mind was that this example of package authors, like they won't even take the time to go and switch to a pre-release line, right? An alpha, a beta channel, and having the odd version number.
You're doing you're saying that without any.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just like relaying.
Anyone saying that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I am a package author. I maintain hundreds of packages, and I would do it.
Yeah, I would also.
I have seen also some authors using night builds quite often, actually. So I don't think how different it would be from a beta. Actually, it would be more less stable than beta.
Nightlies, yeah.
Yeah, but
Now, of course, they do this just for
I don't
monitoring.
know how easy it is to set up nightly. I think it's not just as easy as putting nightly in the GitHub action, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing to be careful of on the nightlies is the nightlies aren't tested. So there's no testing validation on nightlies. They're just built from whatever the commit happens to be when the scheduler runs and checks what the latest commit on main is. The release process doesn't actually run any tests. And the way it works for our normal releases is that because we build commit shards, so we rely on the fact that we've tested that commit shard in the test CI, and that gates, the gating is on the releaser to push the right buttons to then make the release happen on the release CI. But the nightlies are just automatic. We don't actually know if the nightlies work because we don't run tests on them.
And for nightlies, you don't have any changelog. You don't know what's happening to them, and it's still quite different.
Yeah,
they are useful, but
what I'm saying is that if some module authors is testing nightlies, for them beta version is way better because I'm pretty sure they don't consider a failure on a nightly build to be a blocker to the pull request to land. Most of them run the nightly every week just to monitor if some of the changes will break then, and then they can revert or open an issue or something like that. But still, I understand that one thing that we will have in mind is that the new release schedule will not. We will have some people that will not agree with that, and that's okay. We just need to find something that will not impact a lot other people.
And I guess that comes back to what you were saying, that we need to define those. Because if we say, okay, betas will have API compatibility, but you might have breaking changes in public API, also that's gonna help different group of people. Then named list, for example, you get breaking changes everywhere. So that's right. If we define with betas, you have this stability but not this one. Yeah, I think I'm maybe I think Philippe is right that not everyone will trust them, but I still think a lot of people will test on them.
Mhm.
I guess the
But
the advantage is that it's more unstable than our current release, but that allows us to put less effort into, let's say, grooming the release and checking. So it's less work
it
for
would
us,
not really be more unstable.
I think it's more unstable.
It depends on the gating criteria. So if we apply the
Yeah.
same gating criteria, then it should be just as stable as current. But if we are doing something different, like something more like the nightlies, then it will be less stable. So it just depends on how we define what this release is. Whatever label we put on it, the actual like how are we actually going to cut that release, and what are we still going to have the same process that we need to run the tests, for example. If we keep that gating, then the stability should just be the same as in terms of. Again, it depends what you mean by stability. In terms of it passes the tests, so it shouldn't be disastrous. But if you're talking about like ABI stability, then again, that completely depends on how we define the release. If we're saying that there might be some major breaking changes in this, then yes, on that front, then it will be less stable because you could pick up one release from another, and then you find that there are breaking changes in there. But if that's something we've agreed is okay, then that is. On that respect, it will be less stable, but that'll be by design.
Yeah, about ABI stability, the risk is that if we have to keep ABI stability, we cannot update V8. So it means that when it becomes current LTS or whatever, not beta anymore, then V8 will be outdated by many months already.
It has to be an exception, right?
The V8 features are considered server major?
No, the problem is that we still consider changes in the C++, the V8 C++ API to be server major. And they happen all the time.
Okay. We could
decide that we don't consider them breaking anymore, but that's a big change, a big decision.
We could say we won't push them until the stable period. Like at the stable period, then we push the latest V8 available, something like that. So folks still get 6 months of ABI stability than the actual release.
That's a possibility, yes.
Which is the same release schedule that we have today, except we don't bump the server.
Say it again.
We still have one release per year. Sorry?
I'll try to capture in the minutes here. Say it again.
I think that we could say that we guarantee ABI stability, with the exception of just before we cut the .0.0 release, where we would bump the V8 version.
Right.
I don't know if the developers of native add-ons can work with that, but that would be good.
Is it something that maybe the Next10 team could run a poll?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
Like, do they use current versions? Do they?
We did not put this question in the survey, but we can run a survey to understand this kind of stuff. Maybe we can, like, if we If it's just one question, then I don't know if the foundation wants to do, because the foundation handles the survey. But if we have more topics, more things, we could do that.
We could try to create. I know that this won't provide a reliable metric, but opening a vote on X and also LinkedIn might show us some if someone is totally against that, they will express this opinion. Would just say that we can't trust in the data because it's really a small sample, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know how much I like social media polling. It tends to be very, maybe we just capture a small fraction of a given bubble. Like, right. There's that aspect. Yeah.
And who could we talk to present the plan to see if it's if it would work, having ABI instability in middle of a release line?
I think maybe the best we can get is the survey, maybe, or what are the specific consumers? Is it add-ons developer like Michael mentioned that would be impacted?
I think so, because if you use an API, or not API, it's stable. So it's only C++ add-ons.
Yeah, what comes to my mind that in these scenarios, like the best thing is to reach out to these folks, right? Like we probably around the project, we probably have a couple of folks that are heavily invested on add-ons. I can't say from the top of my head. Bye, Marco. But I think that's a very good way if we can collect feedback, right? Like just talk with some people who are using those, right? Like I think that's a very, very good metric, right? Even though it's going to be, it's not statistical, like, but it's very good feedback, right? Like just talking with some experts. Cool. We're at time here. We already lost Marco, so should we continue this conversation on the issue for now, Rafael? Maybe.
Yeah, I think we keep discussing that on TSC meetings, but currently we only have one bullet point, which is the predictable release schedule. But let's do that asynchronously, either in the issue or in the release channel. I think we should define it better before sending a message in the thread. Just make sure that we are sending the right message. But yeah.
Sounds great. Cool. Well, so I guess we'll meet again in a month, and we'll continue on the subject of the releases in the TSC meetings until then. Well, thank you all.